Hey YouTube, it's Richard again. This is going to be my third video where I should do a lot more hands-on stuff this time for you. So as you know from the past video, what I did was I went over the supplies that we're going to need to do a one-sided mold. The reason I'm calling these a one-sided mold is the figure that I have, the bicycle zombie girl. It's a really detailed figure. It's big, it's bulky, it's not really proportionate in a lot of ways. It's kind of just a mess. So let me go and grab it actually. And that's actually the reason why I have it in the clay itself. Whenever you put the latex on, the way you want to do it is you want to layer it on, and the first layer is going to be really thin, and as you kind of tell, I did this in a past video already, but it's got the yellow, the latex already dried on it. The reason being, again, for the clay and doing a thin layer on top, is to prevent air bubbles. The air bubbles are going to be really detrimental to you and how things come out in the end, not as detailed. You're going to be able to tell it's kind of splotchy in the way the mold itself looks, and I'll show you some examples of that later, because my very first one is very, very air bubbly. So that's kind of the reason why it's in the clay. The face it's detailed, but it's simpler than doing the entire body, so we're keeping it to just this. And when I first started doing these, of course, I'm one of those run before you walk kind of people, and I jump into something crazy like this. So this is one, and I'm actually doing another mold for y'all guys. It's going to be a guitar pick. Really, really simple compared to the zombie girl there. And it'll be a different method as well. So for this one, as we see, pretty flat. Everyone knows the shape of a guitar pick, in and out. Again, another video I've already done this on, which you'll see here in a little bit. But I'll do an imprint, which is kind of simpler, and it's just another method you can do. I've done the imprint method for the zombie girl as well. I have a mold of that. I'll show you too in the end how it turned out. But we're kind of just going to jump right into this, and we'll get things started. And one last thing I forgot to, actually the main reason why I had to redo this video, or the intro to this video, is with the liquid latex. It does have some ammonia to it, especially when it starts to set and everything. It has a bad pungent smell to it, especially when you open it too. You'll really get a good whiff of it. Excuse me. But you'll recommend a mask or something to work with whenever you're using it, or be in a really well ventilated area, and prevents you from just feeling. You get a headache sometimes at first if it's real bad, but other than that, though, it's not. I don't know what else will happen, but don't test it, please. Safety first. Okay, guys. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do actually is the guitar pick. The next little clip I'm going to show you is just me pressing this thing into the clay, kind of how far down it needs to go, kind of something. It's real simple, but I'll show you that real fast. Alright, so guitar pick's on the clay, and I'm literally just going to press this thing in there. And so, as you can tell, I press it in. It does take a little bit of work with some clay. This is some pretty good clay, so actually, I like that about it. But let me get this out. And as you see, we have an imprint now. Alright guys, so that is how we do the imprint for the mold. From here, the next step is going to be to actually apply the mold release before we start actually putting on the latex. What I'll do for this one actually is I will, what you're supposed to do, I should say, is you'll shake it up pretty well, and then you'll actually spray it onto the clay. Reason being, it's going to help just the mold itself come off the clay easier, and then actually come off the bicycle, the other figure that we're doing as well, the bicycle girl zombie. It's going to help just come off easier, less chance of tearing. It just overall is a better quality product to use for it. And we also use this stuff when you actually start casting as well. Again, recommend y'all have this stuff. Just makes things easier for you down the road. So next clip you'll see is me applying it to both things. Here we go. So there's our casing, and do just a couple sprays in there. Okay guys, now that we've applied the mold release there, the next step is actually wait 10-15 minutes to allow it to dry. A second coat is recommended if you can do it. Um, I've already done that prior to me shooting this little bit here, so I'm going to jump right into the next step here. So once everything is dried, the next step is apply the latex itself. A couple tips for that. I'm going to show you how to do both the zombie girl and the guitar pick. For the bicycle girl, because just by looking at it, or if you have some other kind of figure or whatever you're using, you know, I'm sure you can tell looking at it, you know, there's bumps and raises and ridges and grooves and, you know, everything else there. Like with this one, there's, you know, the teeth, the eyes, everything. So you want to make sure that you get a really good thin layer on applied first, because that thin layer is going to be what actually holds all the detail for your mold. So that's why you want to apply a really, really thin coat, and I'll show you what to do for that in the next one. The guitar pick, since there isn't much detail to that, you don't have to really worry about it too much. Just don't, you know, apply a big glob of it on there. This stuff actually does take, like I said, an hour to dry, and actually if you put a whole bunch on there at once, it actually won't. Only that top little bit will dry, and everything underneath will never will dry, I should say. So we're going to just kind of jump right into me putting the latex on the zombie girl. Here we go. So here we have a bird's eye view of the zombie girl. So as you can tell, there's all the, you know, the difference in the eyebrow here. The eyeballs have that little circle part around of the nose, the teeth. You can tell it's just kind of, like I was saying earlier, a detailed mold, or a detailed face. So for this, what we're going to do is get some, now as you see that pasty stuff, that's the mold. That one's almost empty. I've been using this for a while. So all you're going to do is, get that out of the way, is you're going to lightly brush this stuff on. Now you can do a big glob as so and spread it out. Just know you want it really thin, but you want a complete covering though, and otherwise it won't work as well. And whenever you're doing these as well, you want to actually have the mold extend an even amount of space on all sides. Something you want to remember too is that any kind of bump or crease or crack or anything of the sort like that, whether it's in the clay or, you know, your design or whatever you're using, it's gonna get picked up whenever you do the actual mold itself. So you want to be always cautious of that. So if there's imperfections in there, you want to make sure you take care of them. Now this one here, the teeth on this one's real tough, just because it's kind of got a whole bunch of crevices and dips and everything else in it. Of course, zombies have to be complicated that way, don't they? So you make sure you want to get in there really well. This feels so new to me. It's been a while since I've actually worked on this thing. As you all can see, I kind of have everything covered here. And you want to get as much covered as you can, so it can be kind of tedious at times. So I'm sure there's an easier way to do this. I just haven't discovered it yet. But this is how I've been doing things so far, and it works for me. If it doesn't work for you, you know what? That's perfectly fine too. Because it's not going to be the same for everybody, and that's fine. And I may not stick to this method for very long if I find something easier. So we're going to see, but again, it's whatever works for you. So And some of the areas in here, you can, just by looking at it, whatever you're working on, you can kind of tell some things are caked on there more than others, so you can tell some things are going to be thicker. And you'll kind of just want to get the areas off there, kind of make it a little thinner, which is what I'm doing here now. Again, that mouth is always a tricky spot. I do not like it. Okay. There we go. The outside areas, you can do whatever you want with that. That's not too important either. Okay, so, and this is our guitar pick. So, I'm going to do the same things I did before. Again, this one is just a lot easier because there's not much detail we're going to get in this. And I actually don't know if this will be a functional guitar pick or not. We're going to find out, actually. It'll be really interesting to see.